Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. The hum of the air conditioning is the only sound as I fumble with my keys outside the front door. My mind is heavy with thoughts of the upcoming presentation, but I'm looking forward to a quiet evening at home. The key turns in the lock, and I push the door open, eager to escape into the comfort of my living room. That comfort shatters in an instant. The scene before me unfolds like a grotesque tableau, each detail burning itself into my memory with merciless clarity. There, on the sofa I picked out with Laura for our 5th anniversary, is my father, his face flushed with exertion and something far worse. And Laura, my wife of 10 years, whose laughter has filled these rooms, looks up in shock, her eyes wide with something akin to fear. For a moment, everything freezes. The shock is so profound, so absolute, it numbs my senses. I stand there, the door still open behind me, as a cold breeze sweeps into the house. "Danny," Laura gasps, scrambling to cover herself, but it's too late. Too late for excuses, too late for lies. My father, clutching his chest, struggles to sit up, his face contorted in pain. He reaches out, a feeble attempt to explain or perhaps to apologize, but the words die on his lips. He collapses back, gasping. The world narrows to the sound of his labored breathing. Conflict rages within me, anger and a desperate, unwanted surge of concern. He's still my father, despite this unforgivable betrayal. His face is ashen, his hands trembling. Deep down, I don't want him to die. "Call an ambulance," I manage to choke out, my voice a stranger's in my own ears. Laura fumbles with her phone, tears streaming down her face. "Danny, I can explain." "Save it," I snap, turning away to help my father. His breaths are shallow, his eyes flickering with fear and regret. As I kneel beside him, the cold seed of revenge plants itself in my heart. Fate, it seems, has already dealt him a cruel hand with this heart attack. But Laura, my own wife, how could she? I hold my father's hand, feeling the weak pulse beneath his clammy skin. He tries to speak, to apologize, his eyes pleading. "Shh, save your strength," I say, the words hollow, even to me. As the sirens wail closer, a plan begins to form, dark and vengeful. It will be meticulous, calculated. Laura will understand the full extent of betrayal, just as I have in this heart-wrenching moment. I stand up as the paramedics rush in, taking over with professional briskness. I step back, watching them work, my mind racing. Laura reaches out to me, her expression a mix of fear and confusion. "Danny, please, we need to talk." "Not now," I interrupt coldly, my eyes not meeting hers. I can't bear to look at her, not yet. Not until my plan is complete. As the ambulance doors close, sealing my father inside, I turn away, the weight of the evening settling around me like a shroud. Tonight I have lost my father in more ways than one. But for Laura, this is just the beginning. I walk back into the house, the door clicking shut behind me, sealing us in together. Now, it's just her and me and my newfound resolve for revenge. The next morning, the sunlight is too bright, too mocking. I barely slept, my mind turning over the mechanics of my plan, every scenario like a twisted puzzle. Laura is quiet, her presence in the house like a ghost I can't exorcise. I avoid her, spending the morning in the garden, pretending to tend to the plants while my thoughts churn darkly. When I finally step back inside, the phone is ringing. It's Tom, my best friend since high school and ironically, the one who introduced me to Laura. "Danny, man, I just heard about your dad. How's he doing?" Tom's voice is thick with concern, unaware of the deeper cuts from yesterday's chaos. "He's stable," I reply curtly, my voice tight. "Look, Tom, can you come over? There's more to it. I need advice." "Of course, buddy. I'll be right there." Tom arrives within the hour, his face etched with worry. I lead him to the study, away from where Laura might overhear. "What's going on, Danny? You look like hell," Tom says as soon as I close the door. "It's Laura," I start, the words bitter. "She and my dad," the sentence hangs, too grotesque to complete. Tom's eyes widen, his expression shifting from concern to shock. "What? That's... Danny, man, I'm so sorry. That's unimaginable." "Yeah, it is," I say, feeling the weight of each word, and I'm planning to make her regret it. Tom's eyebrows knit together. Revenge? Danny, think this through. Revenge won't. It's already thought through. I cut him off. I outlined the basics of my plan: a staged scandal, something to ruin her reputation, something she cherishes more than anything. Tom listens, his face a mask of conflict. This isn't you, man. You're better than this. I was better, I correct him sharply. Now I just want justice. There's a tense pause before Tom sighs. What do you need from me? Help, I admit. I can't do this alone. I don't know, evidence, leverage, something. Tom nods slowly, resigned. Okay, I'm in, but we do this smart, clean. No getting caught, no backfiring. Agreed. As we're shaking on it, the doorbell rings. I glance at the clock. It's too early for any visitors. Tom follows me to the door, a silent shadow of support. I open the door to find a woman standing there, her features sharp, her eyes assessing. Mr. Daniel Harwood, she inquires, her tone professional. Yes, that's me. I'm Detective Lisa Monroe, she introduces herself, flashing a badge. I'm here about your father. There are a few irregularities we need to discuss. Tom and I exchange a glance, a silent ripple of alarm passing between us. Of course, Detective, I say, stepping aside to let her in. What kind of irregularities? She takes a seat, her posture alert. Well, the circumstances leading up to your father's heart attack are curious. We have reason to believe there might have been foul play involved. The room spins slightly, the implications of her words like a sucker punch. Foul play? The plot thickens, my own plans suddenly cast in a new, sinister light. What had started as a personal vendetta might now spiral into something much larger, much more dangerous. As Tom and I sit down to hear her out, I know that the game has not just begun, it has changed entirely. Detective Monroe's eyes flick between Tom and me, her gaze sharp and calculating. The room feels smaller with her presence, the air thick with tension and unasked questions. Foul play, I echo, my voice steadier than I feel. What leads you to think that? Her lips press into a thin line before she answers. Your father had elevated levels of certain medications in his system, medications prescribed for heart conditions, yes, but in doses higher than what had been prescribed. It's too early to conclude, but we are considering the possibility of intentional overdose. The words hit me like a physical blow. Poisoning? Could Laura have? No. The thought is too monstrous, even now. And you think Laura might be involved, I ask, trying to keep my voice even, despite the storm of emotions. We're looking into all possibilities, Mr. Harwood. Can you tell me about her relationship with your father? Detective Monroe's question feels like a trap, baited with my next words. They were close, I start, hesitating under her scrutinizing gaze. Too close. Apparently my attempt at masking the bitterness fails miserably. Tom shifts uncomfortably next to me, his unease palpable. He interjects, trying to redirect the conversation. Is there anything specific you need from us, Detective? Danny's been through a lot, and if there's no direct suspicion. Monroe holds up a hand, silencing him. Actually, Mr. Harwood, your cooperation could greatly help this investigation. Perhaps you could provide us with any relevant information on your wife's interactions with your father? Any recent arguments, changes in behavior, anything at all that might help us understand the dynamics here? I nod slowly, processing her words. I'll need to think about it, I say finally, aware of the gravity of the situation. Detective Monroe stands, her demeanor still courteous but firm. Please do. We'll be in touch, Mr. Harwood. Thank you for your time. After she leaves, the silence is oppressive. Tom is the first to break it. Danny, this is serious. If they're looking into Laura for this, your plan could put you right in the spotlight. Maybe it's time to reconsider. No, I cut him off, my resolve hardening. This doesn't change my plan, it only changes the timeline. We need to act faster. Tom looks at me, his expression a mixture of worry and resolve. All right, man, what's the next move? We start by gathering evidence of her affairs. I need concrete proof. Can you handle that? I know a guy, a PI who can get us what we need discreetly. Tom pulls out his phone, ready to make the call. While Tom arranges for the private investigator, I head upstairs, intent on searching Laura's things for any clues or incriminating evidence. Her study is neat, her laptop open, and still logged in. It's an invasion, a betrayal in its own right, but necessity drives my actions. I sift through her emails, her social media, anything that could hint at her guilt or her motives. Then, amidst bank statements and innocuous messages, I find it an email exchange between Laura and a strange man, planning a rendezvous, speaking in endearments and promises. The pieces click into place, each one a stab of betrayal. I hear footsteps and quickly minimize the window, turning to see Laura standing at the doorway, her face pale, eyes red-rimmed. "Danny, we need to talk," she says softly, the fight gone from her voice. "Not now, Laura," I reply, the evidence burning a hole in my pocket. "We'll talk later." As she leaves, her shoulders slumped, resignation in her step, I feel a twinge of something akin to pity. But it's too late for second thoughts. The dice are cast and there's no turning back now. The storm is coming, and I am its harbinger. The next few days are a blur of whispers and shadows. Tom's pie proves his worth, funneling me snapshots and snippets of Laura's indiscretions. Each piece of evidence is a nail in the coffin of our marriage, yet each revelation tightens the knot in my gut. My plan of exposing her feels less like victory and more like mutual destruction. Late one evening, as I sit in the dim light of my study surrounded by the debris of my shattered life, a knock comes at the door. I'm expecting Tom, perhaps with more evidence, but instead, it's Detective Monroe again. Her face is unreadable as she steps into the room. "Mr. Harwood, may I have a moment?" Her voice is formal, her notebook already open. "Of course, Detective," I reply, gesturing to the chair opposite mine. She sits, her eyes not leaving mine. "We've completed the toxicological analysis of your father's medication levels. It appears there was no foul play involved. The overdose was due to a dispensing error at the pharmacy. A tragic mistake." The news hits me, oddly, both as a relief and a fresh wave of sorrow. No foul play meant Laura wasn't involved in his condition worsening, but it also stripped away the vindication I'd hoped for in my darker moments. "That's good to know," I manage, my voice hollow. "There's more," she continues, and now there's a slight hardness in her voice. "We've been looking into everyone's movements on the day of your father's heart attack, including yours, Mr. Harwood." The word catches in my throat. "Yes, it appears you were at a pharmacy picking up a prescription for your father shortly before you arrived home. The same pharmacy that made the dispensing error." A cold dread settles over me. "I don't understand. Are you saying we don't believe you had any knowledge of the mistake?" she interrupts, her tone softening slightly. "However, it does place you at the scene, adding another layer of complexity to the case." The implications of her words spin in my head. Had my own actions unwittingly contributed to my father's crisis? The irony is bitter, choking. As Detective Monroe leaves, promising to keep me updated, I slump back in my chair, the weight of her revelations crushing me. Hours later, Tom arrives, his face grim. "Got something you need to see," he says, handing me his phone. The screen shows a video of Laura talking intimately with another man, not just any man, but my closest business competitor. The conversation is damning, filled with discussions of business deals and underhanded plans. It's clear her betrayal wasn't just personal, it was professional. As the pieces slot into place, my plan for revenge seems suddenly petty and foolish. Laura hadn't just cheated emotionally and physically, she had been planning to destroy me entirely. The next morning I call her into my study. She stands before me, wary but resigned. "Laura, I know about everything," I say quietly, her face blanches. "The affairs, the deals with my competitors. It's over." "I know," she whispers, her voice trembling. "I never meant for it to go this far. It started out as. I don't know what it started as. I'm sorry, Danny." Her apology hangs in the air, feeble and inadequate. The magnitude of her betrayal still echoing painfully in my heart. Why, it's the only question that matters now. She sighs, a tear trickling down her cheek. I felt ignored, unimportant to you after your father moved in. It was a way to get back at you, to make you see me." The simplicity of her motive does nothing to assuage the pain. It only deepens the tragedy of our lost connection. "I'll be moving out," she continues, her voice steadier now. "I'll leave everything to you. The house, the money. I don't want any of it." As she turns to leave, a part of me wants to call out, to stop her, to try to mend this fractured life. But I remain silent. In the end, the house is quiet, the legal proceedings cold and efficient. Laura disappears from my life, leaving behind a trail of destruction and a chance for new beginnings. My father, slowly recovering, remains the only family I have left. Detective Monroe's final visit closes the case. No charges will be filed against you or your wife. It's just one of those unfortunate series of events. As she leaves, the finality in her words resonates through the empty halls of my home. The revenge I had sought seems hollow now, a pointless endeavor that could have never healed the wounds inflicted by betrayal. In the quiet aftermath, I learned the hardest lesson of all, that forgiveness, not vengeance, is the only path forward if I am to find peace. And as the sun sets, casting long shadows across the room, I start planning, not for revenge but for redemption.